From the Reporter, the paper of record for Delaware County's towns and villages, this is Off the Record, a quick look at the latest county news. I'm Andrew Kantor, and this week we've got a county meeting shouting match, a collapsing building in Roxbury, why you might need to whisper in Hancock, and more. That said, let's get to it. Coming soon to a county committee meeting near you, Delaware County Republicans, the reorg wars. Former Hancock Supervisor Sam Rowe is calling out the county GOP, saying it's a mess of mismanagement, exclusion, internal drama, with whole towns allegedly locked out of voting because of paperwork. Rowe says the county leadership is running the party like a, quote, closed-up little fiefdom, unquote, and accusing them of backroom deals, bad bookkeeping, and treating the bylaws like optional reading. So he's running for county GOP chair, hoping to oust Katie Taggart of Walton. He's promising the usual stuff, transparency, unity, and because he thinks the whole party structure is stuck in a virtual tailpipe, his fix is to, quote, put a catalytic converter on it. The party's latest meeting was full of literal finger-pointing, ethics complaints, missed petition deadlines, and at least one metaphor about oats and horse manure you're not going to want to miss. The battle for control of the county committee comes to a head on September 27th, and depending on who's allowed to vote, it could get really messy. If you want the full story, though, you're going to have to read the paper. Raucous meetings were apparently a thing this week. A routine county finance committee meeting, it turned into either a ruckus or a brouhaha, depending on how you feel. Delaware County Treasurer Beverly Shields going at it with County Attorney Amy Merklin all over why tax foreclosures haven't happened in years. Shields, she says her office has 2 years' worth of cases ready to go. They just need the legal paperwork. Merklin shot that down. She says Shields' filings were so botched, the whole thing needs to be redone from scratch. Merklin's thinking it might get done by next summer, maybe. Then the fun started. Shields said she's done this for 30 years without a hitch. Merklin said, nuh-uh, the treasurer's office kept using the wrong notices even after being sent the right ones. Town supervisors had to sit through this whole thing, and finally Hamden's Wayne Marshfields threw up his hands and called the whole thing disgusting. So, did they find a solution? No! Merklin said she doesn't need or want outside help unless the county wants to outsource everything, start to finish, at $250 an hour. So yeah, not going to happen. Shields, she's leaving her office soon anyway, but as one supervisor summed it up, bless the new treasurer. Over in Roxbury, they might want to think about putting up a do not breathe heavily sign on one of the highway buildings on Main Street. How bad is it? Ceilings falling down, main beams broken, mold everywhere. That comes from council members Macker Davey and Lisa Caravino. They toured the place very briefly and came back looking like they just escaped a haunted house. A good snowstorm would probably collapse the thing, said Davey. The building currently holds tires, snowplows, and, because this is Roxbury, 3 historic-looking carriages the town once used for events, and all of it being slowly digested by the mold. There is a complication, of course. The structure sits in the hamlet's historic district, and that means no one can touch it without state approval, so even if the roof falls in, it had better do it historically. And then there's an odd potential silver lining. The site might qualify as a brownfield, which means potential funding for cleaning it up. But the first step, they need to get everything out very, very carefully. So what else is happening in the county? Walton, it's talking security at the courthouse. Apparently judges, including Walton's own Judge Ripa, are getting more and more violent threats because that apparently is the world we live in. In one case, after Sheriff Craig Dumont criticized a ruling of Ripa's, Ripa started getting online threats. And now court official Joshua Shapiro says it's time to lock things down, literally. That includes limiting public access to the courtroom when it's not in use. And if you're like me, you didn't realize that there was public access to the courtroom when it wasn't in use. The more you know. Walton's got the same problem as a lot of small-town courts, though. It can't afford metal detectors or full-time guards, but it can at least make sure doors are locked and that staff is always around when the building's open. Meanwhile, council members will be keeping their eyes peeled for any grant funding that might be available to make things a little safer. Security isn't the only issue at Walton's courthouse. Accessibility is too. Right now, the village court is upstairs in an historic building with no elevator, meaning anyone who can't handle the stairs may not be able to reach the courthouse at all. At their September 2nd meeting, trustees heard from Mayor Bjorn Eilertson, who said that adding an elevator could cost around $200,000, mostly due to the special structure required to preserve the building's historic appearance. Other fixes, like a stair chair, and they were dismissed. It's 27 feet, Eilertson said. That's not a stair chair, that's a carnival ride. The village is still exploring options and possible grants, but for now, court for anyone with mobility issues is going to be held downstairs in the boardroom. Hey, shout out to Senator Chuck Schumer. He's trying to get FEMA to restore the funding it pulled from Sidney's culvert project. He sent a strongly worded letter to the FEMA folks asking them to reapprove the grants the agency had already approved. There were delays thanks to a bunch of red tape, and with FEMA's recent cuts, it basically said, sorry, Charlie. The village had been granted $5 million, and it's already spent more than $1 million. The idea is to install 5 large drainage culverts under Route 8 to prevent more floods like the ones in 2006 and 2011. But now all that's on hold, and let's be real, it's just a matter of time before the next big flood hits. Hopefully, Schumer will be able to do some sort of DC magic and get FEMA to realize that it's a lot more expensive to deal with flooded property than to stop that from happening in the first place. On a side note, Schumer had no comment on whether Sidney will be getting an Aldi. How loud is too loud at Hancock? Trustees there are talking about a noise ordinance. The first draft someone came up with would ban sounds over 50 decibels between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. on weeknights and after 11 p.m. on weekends. The problem? 50 decibels is about as loud as a refrigerator humming, so someone could get a ticket for coughing. Actually, the issue is really businesses that run overnight shifts, because even 7 a.m. is kind of late if they're doing anything in the morning. So how about 80 decibels? That's what the trustees are considering now. That's about as loud as a gas-powered lawnmower or a garbage truck. Still, it's a bit on the quiet side, and that's probably why they haven't voted on it yet. I mean, people do like garbage trucks and snowplows. We must be doing something right. There's good news for Delaware County tourism. It keeps bringing in the money, and it is on the upswing again. Visitor spending in the county jumped about 5.4% in 2024. That's more than $155 million coming into county businesses, and it's been growing over the last 3 years. So what are people spending their money on? The obvious stuff: lodging, food, retail, recreation. But here's the weird thing. The biggest number, it's more than half actually, comes from spending on second homes. What does that mean? Is it construction? Is it taxes, maintenance? County Tourism Director Sophia Pico says she's not really sure. But hey, no one's going to complain about $101 million it brings in, right? Big question in Fleischmanns. Is the crumbling Fleischmanns Heights Bridge actually a bridge? Or is it just a culvert? This is important. If it's a bridge, it's probably the state's responsibility to fix it. You caught the crumbling part, right? It's already down to just one lane. But if it's a culvert, then the village is on the hook. And also, they probably shouldn't call it the Fleischmann Heights Bridge. Mayor Sam Gill is pretty clear. It looks like a bridge. It acts like a bridge. Culverts, he said, are small and round. This is not that. The village already did some engineering work. It got permits. It even chased some grant money to get the thing fixed. So Gill's lawyered up to help him figure out who really owns it, and thus who should pay for the repairs. And by the way, if you're thinking it's kind of hard to mix up a bridge and a culvert, this is a case of you have to see the picture. You really can argue either way. It's kind of a small bridge that forms a big culvert. Check it out at the-reporter.net. Oh, Middletown and its garbage problem. Town officials there spent 2 hours talking about problems at the town's transfer station. For those of you who don't know, that's where the garbage is dumped before moving on to landfills or recycling centers. Anyway, those 2 hours were spent talking about short-term renters whose landlords tell them to dump there. No, they're not allowed to. Then there are the overflowing bins, too much metal being brought in, contractors who dump a lot, and looming over all that is whether to start charging fees. This is local government, so no decisions were made, but the phrase, "let's look at what Roxbury's doing," came up more than once. And that's it for this week's Off the Record, but you know the drill. There's plenty more in The Reporter, like Sidney's new wastewater chief, a local snowmobile club's river cleanup, and a new village seal for Walton. Actually, there's even more. You just need to pick up the paper, or better yet, subscribe. Head over to the-reporter.net. It's your hometown paper, and it's a lot better than Facebook for getting the actual news. Until next week, I'm Andrew Kantor. Thanks for being here.